All right, let's talk politics now, and all eyes on Iowa as the nation's top 4 Republican presidential candidates battle it out for the top spot. And a brand new poll showing Herman Cain at 20%, Ron Paul trailing at 19%, Mitt Romney inching behind with 18%, and Newt Gingrich rounding out the top with 17%. So with the Iowa caucus now just weeks away, what can these candidates do to distinguish themselves from the rest of the pack? Josh Block is a former spokesman for the Clinton-Gore and Gore-Lieberman presidential campaigns, and Ford O'Connell is the chairman of Civic Forum PAC and former director of rural outreach for John McCain's presidential campaign. Gentlemen, good to see both of you. Thanks very much for being here. Ford, as the Republican, let me start with you. You read these numbers. What do they say to you?
Well, I think it tells us that Iowa's a wide-open affair, and the question is, right now, only about 30% of likely Iowa caucus goers have really firmly decided who they're going to back. The real question here is, can Newt Gingrich survive the current media scrutiny and capitalize on Iowa? If he can do that, he may have a good shot in Iowa.
Josh, as a Democrat, how do you read this poll that came out? I should mention, this was a Bloomberg News poll that came out, was conducted about a week ago.
Well, you know, we've had Survivor Island debates. Now we're going to have Survivor Island primaries. These guys aren't really even running to win. They're running just not to get voted off the island like the last bunch of folks, Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann. You know, at the moment, you've got a field that's widely muddled. I mean, there's no clarity. I don't see any reason to believe that we're going to get a front runner out of this process in Iowa. Folks are really divided. I don't see it predicting much of anything this year.
Ford, the thing that jumped out at me in this Bloomberg poll was the number of respondents who said that they could be persuaded to change their vote, that they're supporting one candidate, but hey, you know, you never know. They might support somebody else. 60% of people said that, as a matter of fact. What does that tell you?
Well, that tells me how fluid the field is. Look, Iowa caucus goers want one thing. They want a bold leader who's going to keep one eye on the economy and one eye on government reform. Remember, likely Iowa caucus goers on the GOP side detest Obamacare. So that's the real question. And that's why someone like Newt Gingrich, if he wants to have a realistic shot at the Republican nomination, needs to score a victory in Iowa. But don't be fooled. Mitt Romney wants to win Iowa as well. But with Romney care, he may be looking at a second-place finish.
Josh, what do you make of the Gingrich surge?
Well, it's obviously all about Newt at the moment. I mean, I think the question is, will people want someone who they believe can debate President Obama in a tough way, in a Gingrich-like way, and ignore all the problems he's got, including the things about $2 million in lobbying for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, this kind of stuff. You know, look at the people who've won Iowa in the past, though, or done well there. Pat Robertson, Mike Huckabee, Pat Buchanan. These are not mainstream guys, and they really don't go on to be the nominee or the president. So I'm not sure what we're really going to get out of this year's contest. I think if Romney wins, it's over. Romney wins. If Gingrich loses, his campaign is taking a real hit.
Ford, speaking of Mitt Romney, he's actually conducting a town hall right now as we speak. We've got some live pictures from New Hampshire where he's talking to voters there. Everybody is in Iowa except for Mitt, who's in New Hampshire. Has he kind of written Iowa off? And what happens if he doesn't score in the top 1 or 2?
Well, he hasn't written Iowa off. Earlier this week, he opened offices in Des Moines. Trust me, Mitt Romney really wants to win Iowa because he wants to close the book on the nomination. But should he flop in Iowa and not get a first or second place finish, he could really be in for a long, protracted fight all the way to Tampa Bay for the nomination.
Josh, as a Democrat, how does your party look at this? Do you like sort of a protracted battle between these Republicans, or would it be better for President Obama and his supporters if the president knew exactly who his opponent was going to be sooner rather than later?
Well, people call this a dead heat. I mean, it's a dead heat. These guys are DOA against President Obama, most of them. I mean, look at the fact that Ron Paul is doing so well out there. Ron Paul is a guy who believes in slashing the government. Iran's no problem. Consequences be damned when we hurt folks who need the government. And the fact that he's doing so well speaks to the fact that the right wing of the Republican Party, which is really what we're talking about in Iowa, has moved beyond just religious fundamentalism, is now looking at just kind of libertarian kookiness. And, you know, Newt Gingrich is the kind of guy that 30% of the Republicans may end up wanting to run for president, but I guarantee you 100% of the Democrats do. This is a guy with a record, you could play forever.
Josh, you call it kookiness, but the supporters of Ron Paul happen to be those who are the most ardent supporters of all of the Republican candidates. The folks who say that they're behind Ron Paul say, more of them say they're not changing their vote. They've got their guy. Let me ask you both for a prediction. I know it's a little tough because we're a few weeks away, but Ford, how does this shape up? 1, 2, 3.
Depending on whether or not Newt Gingrich can sort of weather the media scrutiny as a co-frontrunner, I think that Iowa right now, if he can get the troops on the ground, because the caucus is a big ground game play, I'm going to go with Newt Gingrich 1, Mitt Romney 2, and Ron Paul's ardent supporters 3.
All right, and I'll let you weigh in, Josh. What's your top 3?
Well, my friend Ford has said that Ron Paul's supporters are like MacGyver with a paper clip. They're going out there whether it's hailing, sleeting, snowing, or anything. And I give him as good a chance to run away with this thing as anybody. I do think that Gingrich is going to finish maybe if not 1, maybe 2, and then I give Romney number 3.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. Appreciate you coming in. Josh Block, Ford O'Connell. Enjoy the holiday, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Josh. Rick.
Good seeing you, buddy. Bye, guys.